Is it time to deal with the Godzilla problem? Let's get into it. I'm Brett with UKVersus, bringing you theories, news, and more, win, lose, or draw. And let's talk about the big lizard. Yes, Godzilla has been on the fringes of the meta, has been one of the biggest meta characters in the EU for over a year now. And it seems like he's only gaining more traction and more momentum as the game goes on. In the Australian, Canadian, and Spanish regionals, Godzilla was one of the most represented characters on there and even had a pretty decent conversion rate. And this is kind of where I stand on it. I know some people are calling for erratas or bans because he is very powerful in what he does. For those of you who are new to the game or looking to see what's going on, or just looking to find out why Godzilla is as much of an issue as he is, let's talk about what Godzilla actually does. So, Godzilla is a 34 health, 6 hand size, Chaos Earth Water character with a static ability, which means this ability is always active whether Godzilla is committed or not. That says your attacks with a printed difficulty 5 or greater get +3 damage. Enhance, spend 1 momentum. Your next check to attack or block gets +2. And then first form, commit, discard 4 cards, destroy all foundations both play stages. Only playable if there are 10 or more foundations in all stages combined. So not only have you got the ability to manage your opponent resources through that first 4 months per game, all of your attacks, although a bit harder to play, are going to be getting damage from the static, and then that enhance meaning that once you start hitting, once you start getting momentum, you get to keep making your checks easier to play on a 6 hand size character with 34 health. Now, this was a massive impact at the time. This was one of the biggest health totals we'd seen on 600, but then Attack on Titan came in and kind of normalized it. With all the resources available to Godzilla here, he's been a massive threat. He took down the Nottingham Regional quite quickly after release. He's been on the fringes of the competitive meta for quite some time and has just been gaining more and more traction the more cards we get. He's a character that only gets stronger the more 5 difficulty attacks we get. And when we've seen now that we're seeing more attacks, and we've seen the 4 check Titanic attack, Godzilla's coming around. So he has been on the fringes, and people have started calling, saying he needs to be touched. Now, as he stands in the meta at the minute, unpopular opinion, he doesn't need to be touched. Personally, he's fine. He forces you to play a bit differently. He forces you to control and to block and not just sit there and take attacks. And he's fine at the moment. His conversion rate, his win rate, the way that people are able to play around him, it's not that bad. Yes, adding things like unyielding destruction was absolutely completely unnecessary for Godzilla to go, yeah, I have my first form 4 more times. But he doesn't give speed. He doesn't interact with your opponent's checks. Yes, he makes his things easier to block, but Godzilla isn't immortal. To get that momentum going, he has to hit, and there are some ways to cheat out momentum, like we've seen coming through, like the All for One Foundation that allows you to get momentum, and if you can cheat out momentum, if you can get momentum quickly, Godzilla becomes a lot harder to deal with, which is why a lot of these strategies came about with things like determined advance and the water strategies before rotation, where you were able to keep putting attacks into your momentum and just keep cheating progressive and also keep getting momentum. And the more momentum you can get in Godzilla, the quicker you can kill and the longer you can string, making it harder for your opponent to block everything. And this is why I don't think Godzilla needs banning now. I think Godzilla will be touched or banned or have something changed after November. Once we get Guilty Gear and we start seeing all this momentum gain, and the attacks we've already seen, yes, only one of them is a 5 diff attack, and that is the Earth one, but they all give momentum. And for Godzilla, that is just saying, I'm giving your next attack +2. +2 to its check. That's nuts. The fact that Godzilla's getting all three symbols in here and every attack we've seen so far, and I think that is where Godzilla's going to get touched. Yes, I know that Annie does a similar thing, but Annie only has chaos. Death is not in the Guilty Gear set, so there's only one symbol. Godzilla's got three symbols here, all getting momentum, all being enhanced by the Guilty Gear set, giving this abundance of momentum. And I don't know how other people feel about this, but I know the games where my opponent's able to cheat out momentum, the games where my opponent is able to use momentum from other sources and just be able to utilize it quite quickly, are the games where I've struggled the most. And now we have tension in Guilty Gear, which just free gives an opponent momentum. That combined with Godzilla is going to be an issue. I could go into other things from there, but to me, as it stands outside of Guilty Gear, outside of this free momentum, Godzilla doesn't need touching. Godzilla doesn't need the ban or the errata. Godzilla is fine. It's just people are playing him a lot, and having cards that are meta isn't an issue. It's if Godzilla was undefeatable, if Godzilla was the ability taken down, he can get hot streaks. He can get these abilities. Any player playing Godzilla knows that you can get these times where you just get the nuts and your opponent is not going to be able to stop you. But those are few and far between. And a card should not be punished because you got lucky. Godzilla does not create an unfun experience. Godzilla creates situations where you can do silly things if the stars align, and that is fine for a game. However, what free momentum, what all these momentum cheating abilities do, is make it a lot easier for the stars to align. It's a lot easier for your attacks to come through, and that is kind of one of my issues with Guilty Gear. But I'm not here to talk about Guilty Gear. I'll do that in another video. What I'm here to talk about here is Godzilla. Yes, he is one of the most represented characters. That doesn't mean that he's broken. That just means people see what he can do. He showed that what he can do. Godzilla is powerful, but Godzilla's always been powerful. And the North American players were always kind of saying, up until recently, that Godzilla wasn't an issue. And then he's kind of becoming more an issue. But the EU players, the Spanish players, the EU players, the Australian players kind of identified this already. We knew Godzilla was meta. We knew Godzilla was powerful, but he isn't broken, and we shouldn't touch cards. We shouldn't destroy cards or ban them or errata them just because they are powerful. We should do it for reasons. We should do it for good reasons. We shouldn't just touch cards for the sake of touching them. Errataing Godzilla because he's broken, errataing Godzilla because he creates a negative play experience, that's fine. Errataing Godzilla for what he is now isn't fine. He isn't an issue. He's meta, but he isn't meta defining. He isn't meta warping. He may be meta defining, but he isn't meta warping. He isn't forcing people to play in a completely new way. He's forcing people to play. He's just playing the game in a consistent way with lots of damage that also offers control aspects. He's just a good character. And if we're going to touch characters for being good, then what's the point of playing the game? When we get to November and he starts getting all this momentum support and what he can do becomes a lot smoother and a lot easier, and he does create this negative play experience because you're able to consistently kill your opponent and string out, that's when it becomes unhealthy. That is when sitting down across my opponent, seeing Godzilla, and they go, cool, I have 6 attacks in hand, each of which gives momentum. I go to advance into Spatula, and so cool, I've launched a 6-9 and a 4-8 with I launched 6-9 on a 6. I committed 1 foundation. I launched Spatula on a 6. I got enough momentum. I've launched at you a 6 mid for 9 and a 4 high for 11. If you are unable to block those as a 7-hander, chances are your 7-hander's dead at that point for those 2 attacks. But at the same time, you then go, yeah, but I've also just got myself 2 momentum. I've got 4 other attacks in hand, and I've committed 2 foundations to pass these. I'll spend 2 momentum and go cool on a 7. I don't have to check. I don't have to commit anything because we're checking. Oh, great! It's and even if you don't, you still have to commit 2 more. It creates a negative play experience when games can end that quickly. That is why I think Godzilla will be touched after Guilty Gear, because UVS have made it very clear that they don't want games ending on turn 2 or turn 3. They want games progressing to turn 4, turn 5, turn 6. They want that interactivity back, which is what UVS and Universus is really good at, that interactive, the way that their players and abilities can play off each other. It's what we got our start with in the fighting games. There's some interactivity between your turns. Godzilla just says you don't get to do that. And there are other combos out there, such as they Fallen Titans combo, which also take away from it, but it hasn't seen much outside of, say, like Australia. It's a more janky combo, which is fine, but at the moment Godzilla is fine, but given an abundance of resources, given this infinite power to improve, he's going to become a problem. Easy as. He's on the fringes already. He's like at the peak of what a character should be doing in the current meta, and Guilty Gear just pushes him over. But we'll have to wait to see what happens at events post Guilty Gear in the local community. Hopefully, they'll get touched by Worlds. If not, Worlds is going to be a Godzilla slugfest, depending, of course, what we see in Guilty Gear. I'm excited to see what characters people are going to be revealing and what these effects are going to be doing. But as it stands, I'm not worried about Godzilla now. I know some people are, but Godzilla will be an issue once Guilty Gear drops and the tension abilities just give him free momentum. That's what I think anyway. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Let me know if there are any other characters you think are on the fringes of being very broken. I know Pony started making a bit more of a show again. Let me know what characters you would like me to talk about, what decks you like to see, and I will catch you all in the next one. Have a great time, and I'll hopefully see you at game night. Once again, this is Brett with UKVersus, bringing you theories, news, or more. Win, lose, or draw. Bye.